What's up, guys? It is Twilight. I haven't been on for a while, but I have a sponsored video today, and I think that this is going to be a great opportunity to delve into some inner work so we can get all of that unuseful energy that has been holding us back and make the 2021 a rocket ship of abundance for us. Because many of us who are studying the law of attraction, understand metaphysics, or has esoteric knowledge realizes that internal conflicts, trauma, low frequency energy can be an abundance blocker. And we want to go ahead and remove those abundance blockers. That being said, this sponsored video is about children who are born of light to narcissistic parents. Children who are born of light to narcissistic parents. I will say that this is a somewhat triggering topic for me. It took me a very long time to put things into perspective, simply because I was raised in codependency and enmeshment situations that kind of warped my idea of a relationship. There were many times that I thought abuse and love could coexist in a relationship. And it was validated and echoed throughout my life through relationships that I saw in my household to relationships that I saw in my immediate surroundings and community. So being able to distinctly identify these toxic connections and set healthy boundaries and know that I'm valuable and know that I'm worthy of these positive exchanges was a journey for me. And many people will agree that when you become conditioned to believe that, you have to accept toxic, unhealthy relationships as a consequence to keeping your family in your life, to keeping your loved ones in your life, to keeping your friends in your life, it definitely becomes a journey to reprogramming your own mind. So hopefully this video helps anyone that's on that journey who is still working through that inner conflict and ready to move into prosperity. With that said, here is what the first thing I want to be very clear about is when you are a child of light, okay, most likely you will be born of a narcissistic parent or a parent that is looping through some sort of inner darkness, or a parent who has not went ahead and transmuted their own emotional karma or the karma of their parents. The reason being is because most people are inundated with the thought that they have children because this is just the natural way to exist in our experience. But actually, most people have children because it is a way to heal generational trauma. It is a way to heal any generational curses. Spiritually, a lot of us are having children because we have not transmuted a certain level of karma. So our offsprings are a kind of like a relay race in the spirit world, and we pass the baton to our children. Now, that doesn't mean that it doesn't come with any bumps and bruises for the child, and there's just some seamless, easy transition for them to understand how to heal that generational karma. Sometimes they don't get to pass the baton along, or they end up at the finish line, or they end up folding. There are so many things that happen, but generally, when we are creating, or when we are having children in the realm of creation, it is for us, or part of it is for them to heal the generational stagnation that was not healed by the predecessors. So most children of light are going to be born of a parent who has unresolved issues. That's just the bottom line. You're not really going to see it be any other way in most cases. The way that this third dimensional experience is, from a metaphysical standpoint, people are having children so that they can heal their own bloodline. And that's the facts. So if you are a child of light, you've likely already identified that your parent either has high narcissistic traits, or that your parent has unresolved issues, and you're trying to work through that because you want to still love them in the same way, but it's hard to pedestalize them when you've experienced so many things with them. So first, let's identify what a child of light might look like. And let's just go with the most accepted definition of an indigo child. So an indigo child is usually characterized by being extremely strong-willed, an old soul, a free thinker, headstrong, non-conformist, a passionate truth seeker, okay? Very, very intelligent and perceptive, often highly creative, highly intuitive, kind of have this feeling like they want to change the world, okay? Really empathetic and compassionate, just really all around, like I said, like a light. They vibrate on a high frequency. They understand things in the unknown that a child shouldn't understand. You know, they see things like they've been here before, okay? You can tell they have that frequency like they've been here before, okay? Sometimes they're a loner, a lot of times. If you're familiar with MBTI, they're usually your INFJs, your INFPs, your ISTJs, really, really have a strong connection with nature and animals. And so you can kind of see that this child can channel things from the unknown. Now, when it comes to the gambit of narcissism, you want to refer to my prior videos about all of the 9 traits listed in the DSM-5, but those are people with narcissistic personality disorder. That is prevalent, but there are also parents who have narcissistic traits, and there are parents who have unresolved issues, which kind of have the intersectionality with narcissism as well. Now, all of the information that I'm giving you is mostly qualitative, some quantitative. I would say that this is an opinion, but it is a educated opinion, okay? So when you're dealing with parents who, I can't diagnose someone as having NPD, but I can tell you when your parent is vibrating on a lower frequency and they have unresolved issues and traumas from their own childhood that they haven't dealt with, you're going to find certain similar core behavior tendencies. So I'm just going to highlight 3 in this conversation and go from there. One behavior tendency you will see is they have a destabilized identity. A destabilized identity. Now, here are some ways that you can tell if you have a parent with a destabilized identity. Is this particular parent always humbugging, yelling, fussing, snapping about something? You don't know what bag they're going to come out of. You don't know what mood they're going to be in. Completely irrational, emotional, and you don't know what's going to trigger them, what's going to set them off. Those are signs that the person has a destabilized identity, okay? Because one of the bigger things about narcissism that people don't understand is these people don't have a core self. Their core self is mainly contingent upon their external influence and how much they can garner the feelings of power and authority, okay? So when you're looking at someone acting out of having a destabilized identity, you will notice that they're just on an emotional roller coaster all the time because they don't know who they are. So they're constantly going through emotions, wavelengths, energies, because they don't have a solid sense of self. That is opposite of a child of light, because as I listed, they're generally strong-willed, old souls, free thinkers, headstrong. That means you already come in grounded with a sense of self. So you have a parent who has a destable identity, and you have a stable identity, and they're the parent and you're the child. Problem number one. Number two, and I sort of mentioned this before, they're pathologically obsessed with authority, control, and domination. One of the big things about having narcissistic traits is you're trying to get people to not see how uncertain, unsure, and just how fragile you are. So the point of that is to constantly create a spectacle here, a spectacle there, so that nobody really sees what's really going on the inside. Authority is one of the things that they most value, because they don't have a higher frequency understanding. Okay, they're very much so people that are connected to the lower dimensions of understanding. And if we understand what low frequency nature is, you understand that low frequency nature is not in the creative realm. It can only duplicate things. It can only copy things. It can only take from something else and then use it to make themselves better. That is what low frequency creatures do by nature. So a lot of times people are confused when a low frequency person do low frequency shit. But if they're low frequency, okay, they don't have the tools to meet higher level integrity and moral levels. So you're asking of them something that's not in them. Okay, so authority becomes a big deal for them. That's also very problematic when their authority feels challenged. The third thing is that they have childlike emotional competencies. When you're dealing with a parent who is narcissistic or has narcissistic characteristics, you're dealing with someone who emotionally reasons like a petulant toddler, okay? And that is so freaking problematic. Why? Because you're dealing with somebody who is an authority figure over you, but this person doesn't even know how to freaking understand shit on a higher level. And if they don't get their way, it's tantrums. And that tantrums can come in the form of physical abuse, emotional abuse, withholding love, withholding praise, a myriad of things that says, if you don't give me my way, you will be punished. And not giving them their way in their mind is the ultimate insult to them. Even though a rational, mature adult understands that no, you're not going to get your way all the time and everything is not going to go as you planned. But they deal with a great level of shame. They deal with a great level of fear of inadequacy. And so the whole point of narcissism is a defense mechanism. It's to keep people not being able to see them for what they really are. And they use a myriad of manipulative tactics to do so, even if it means kind of basically destroying another person. Because the one thing that they cannot stand, a highly narcissistic person, is being seen for what they really are or what they feel they really are, which they feel that they are truly, truly inadequate, and they feel that they are truly, truly inferior. And that shit haunts them day in and day out. So, as an indigo child, sadly, because you have been manifested through the karma that they have not been able to transmute, you're manifested under the authority of someone not equipped to actually help you in your journey in a positive way. Sure, They're going to make your life a living hell, which will in turn move you towards your destiny. But they're not going to do it in a way where you're not going to have to deal with the fact that they are going to project their pain onto you. That shit is going to happen without a shadow of a doubt. So let's take, for example, the destabilization part. Because they don't have a strong identity or a strong sense of self, your strong identity and your strong sense of self comes across as authority. Listen to what I'm saying to you. Your strong identity and your strong sense of self comes across as authority because they do not have the ability to evaluate things on a higher emotional intelligence level. So their intelligence is that likened emotionally, not mentally. Don't get fooled by narcissists because they are mentally intelligent. They mostly are, okay? What it is they lack emotional intelligence. And so they're the emotional equivalent of a kindergartner, okay? So here you are, you're just being you. You're showcasing your wisdom, you're showcasing your light. That makes them feel exposed. Now remember, I said that they have a destable identity. In addition to that, they are pathologically obsessed with authority. So you are just being your free-thinking, non-conforming self, bright, intelligent, intuitive, and you're triggering the fuck out of them. Now, for a narcissist, a trigger is not is an attack. A trigger is an attack. They don't have the mental wherewithal to actually filter through their own triggers and accept accountability for them. They feel the same way, even if it's intentional or unintentional. If they are triggered, then you intentionally meant to do that. And you will be punished at the same level as if you intentionally meant to trigger them. What that then does is that sends signals to you as the child of light that something is wrong with being strong-willed. Something is wrong with being free-thinking. Something is wrong with being intuitive. For me, as a child, the one outlet was being able to go to school, see my teachers, and them to admonish my free-thinking, intelligent nature. They admonished it so much, and I got so much praise and approval for it, that gave me a different perspective. Now, if you're a child that is dealing with a highly narcissistic parent, and you're at home constantly getting berated and told that you're being rebellious or that you're being defiant when really you're just expressing yourself because they feel threatened, then you're going to develop a complex towards the very things that are intended for you to put your light out here in that world, this world. And what does that do? That dims your light. And this is so a part of your identity because this is a part of your soul. This is a part of your spirit that you become what? Destabilized in your identity. Once you become fragmented in who you are, and you're not sure of who you are anymore because you're getting all of this negative feedback from this authority figure who is supposed to be taking care of you, but they have not taken care of their own emotional limitations, then once you start getting that constant negative feedback, you're going to develop some complexes and some issues with your self-esteem and what you believe makes you you. Okay? So destabilizing is something that they do to their children. If you are a child of light and you have a highly narcissistic parent, destabilization is one of the things, honey, that they are going to attempt to do to you, whether it's subconsciously or not. Because remember, their emotional reasoning skills is likened to a small child. So their thoughts of being triggered is not necessarily, oh, I'm going to take responsibility for my triggers and get help. No, it's, oh, no, you're making me feel inadequate. You're making me feel inferior. You're making me feel low. So now I feel attacked and I must attack you. You understand? Now, the other part about this is the pathological authority. Because their authority is built on a potato chip thin foundation, whenever something you do exposes them, it is as if you have disrespected them. When in fact, you're not disrespecting them at all. They simply just feel disrespected by the feeling of not necessarily being able to control everything. Remember, they need that control to set up the barriers so that they can make people believe they're something that they're not. Now, one other thing that you will notice about a highly narcissistic parent is that they're going to pretend to be something different in the public than behind closed doors. That's one of their biggest moves, okay? They like to pretend that they are the best parent going and the most caring and responsible parent. And the conflict with a child of light, like a child born under normal frequencies, is probably not going to put too much thought into this. But a child born of light is going to have a huge issue with this, because the contradiction is going to create such inner turmoil for them. It's like, hey, everybody looks at you as this stellar parent, but when I go home, I'm being berated, I'm being mistreated, I'm being misunderstood, and it's all just nothing but pressure and darkness for me when I'm near you. And this is not the way that a child is supposed to feel. You're supposed to feel safe around your parent. And when you cannot feel safe around your caregiver, that actually fucks with your root chakra. So you'll notice children of light have financial problems for a really long time. And it all comes and stems from a parent who was not emotionally equipped to have that child. And they constantly, relentlessly projected their pain onto that child. It can be very murky and very depressing for a child of light to have to deal with such emotional incompetence in their parent. They want to remain an authority figure, so much so to the point where they don't mind fragmenting, destabilizing your personality, seeing you in depression, seeing you in pain. And unfortunately, depending upon just how malignant their narcissism is, it can totally blow the light out of you. It can totally have you turning to drugs, promiscuity, any kind of self-abasing behavior. Those are just the most darkest things. But it can also hold you back from being your best self. You see? So what do we do in the light of this? Are we continuously blaming our parents for the life that we lived? No, we're not. And that's very dismissive to even bring that up. But when you are dealing with a toxic parent or a toxic caregiver or someone who was there to take care of you, but they abused their position with you, it creates all kinds of chemical imbalances in the mind and self-esteem issues in the mind. And as an adult, you have to identify the origin of how that came to be. Then you have to chart out a plan to release those layers that were projected onto you. Now, this can be very challenging because your inner voice can totally be colonized and hijacked by the inner conflict and inner dialogue of your caretaker who abused their position. Okay, now we understand that parents are supposed to have certain levels of authority. Yes, parents are supposed to do that, but they're also supposed to make a child feel heard and also make a child feel loved and safe. And if those things are missing, this is where we are aligning our children to be in a position to have all kinds of internal turmoil, which manifests itself externally as issues with the root chakra, issues with the throat chakra, issues with connecting to the higher plane, anxiety issues, all types of not being able to develop your spiritual gifts. So these are things that need to be addressed in order for us to move forward. You can't heal what you don't reveal. Okay, period. So anyone who feels assaulted by this conversation and the rawness of it, that is totally your responsibility to deal with. Me personally, I went through years of sound therapy where I listened to binaural beats, 432 hertz, 639 hertz, 741 hertz. Meditation slowed my thoughts. And in this type of meditation and mindfulness, I was able to determine what was not me and what was me. Pain body healing, radical self-acceptance, living in authenticity in spite of what the naysayers had to say. Accepting myself fully and completely and being completely compassionate to myself. You can call on a higher deity, whether it is Yahweh or an Orisha like Yimiya or Asud, or, you start to practice any Ayurvedic techniques. All of those things. But what this definitely does to you is this breaks down your courage. It breaks down your self-esteem. It breaks down your self-worth. And these are things that you have to fixate your focus on to rebuilding. So even if you have to spend some time with a counselor, with a therapist, it's well worth it so that you can garner back parts of yourself, become whole again, put Humpty Dumpty back together again, and start to love yourself. And in the end, you're still going to have to forgive them. You doesn't mean you have to have a relationship with them. Let me be clear. Doesn't mean you have to hee-haw in their face at the family events. Let me be clear on that. You don't have to rekindle relationships with toxic ass people. But forgiveness is what removes the blockage from you. Because look at how miserable they must be to live in the constant crippling fear that they are inferior beyond belief. So if nothing else, the fact that they projected their shit onto you just means that they are dealing with 20 times more than you are. And because they are dealing with 20 times more than you are, it's safe to say that if you can detach from that environment and go on your healing journey, you are better off. So this is Twilight saying peace, healing, love yourself.